Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining today. We are excited to have you here as part of our webinar series. Our title for this webinar today is How to Enable Compliance Throughout the Mover, Joiner, Lever Lifecycle in SAP. Our presenter today is Anand Kotti, Director of Solution Engineering at Pathlock, and he will introduce himself in just a moment. But first, I'd like to go over just a few housekeeping items. If you cannot hear this audio, please click on your dashboard, and from there you can click on audio and you can check to see if you're using the appropriate audio device. You can also click the play sound to check if you can hear the sound coming through your speakers. There will be a Q&A session following the presentation, so we encourage you to type any questions into the questions box that you'll find on your control panel, and from there we'll answer those questions at the end of the event. To prevent background noise, everyone is on mute. And with that, I'll turn the time over to Anand.
Hi everyone, this is Anand Kotti, Director of Solution Engineering at Pathlock. I've been in the security industry for a little over 15 years, and especially in the SAP and cybersecurity space and security space, right? Now, before we jump in to the topic, I want to give you a little background of Pathlock, who we are. Pathlock is a market leader in application access governance space. We do have a lot of solutions that we offer our customers in access governance, continuous control monitoring, and cybersecurity. Now, today's topic is purely on access governance. We do have over 1,300 customers, very referenceable with 95% retention rate. Now, I also want to highlight some things here. On the right-hand side, as you could see, the challenges that we see today in the market space is that, at 75% of the controls that are tested are manual. Now, you'd be surprised with that percentage, but that's what we came up with our research. The second thing I want to point out is that, a lot of companies are reporting material weakness because obviously if you're testing manual, they are prone to errors, and this kind of spirals down to this one, the material weakness. The third thing, and most important thing, is that the audit cost. Yeah, material weakness is sometimes applicable to companies which are publicly traded, and you have to report them, and the news is all over. But if you're not publicly traded, you can keep it in the closed doors, and you can try to resolve it. Now, but audit cost is not. It's agnostic to all the things that we just talked about. The audit cost is across the board. So audit cost is going up, and the more manual processes you do, or more you think to do things where you don't have any automation, obviously the cost will go up. This is where Pathlock comes into life, right? So you heard about me and you heard about Pathlock, and let's jump into the topic today, which is how to enable compliance through joiner mover lifecycle management, right? Before we solve this problem about compliance and joiner mover and provisioning, one thing that you need to understand is that a lot of companies already have what you call as they have their applications already in place. They have their roles in place, and there could be risks within those roles, right? So first thing and foremost, we recommend is to get clean. Get clean is where you try to assess your system to figure out what are all the the SOD risks or sensitive access risks are within the roles that you have provided to your end users, right? So assessing the risk is important. Now, once you assess the risk and you understand the risk and you fix those risks, right? The next thing is to make sure you stay clean. This is where the get clean is assessing the risk and make sure you clean up all the risk. Now, staying clean is equally important, right? So now this is where you have stringent risk evaluation process in every step of the way. Yeah, right. When we say stringent risk evaluation process, so in the entire joiner mover lever life cycle that we just going to talk in depth about, it's important to make sure in every step of the way you are evaluating users, making sure what if I give this user this particular permission, what if what are the risks that you're you're introducing into your platform. So you can do what kind of analysis. So stringent risk evaluation is equally important, and it's also equally important to involve a lot of parties to make sure they're approving to the permission that you're granting. So this is where the stay clean process comes into play. And obviously, the last step of the process is the making sure you have what you call as the a continuous evaluation of the users. This is where the recertification will come into play, and and making sure the users' permissions that have been granted are periodically reviewed and approved by the managers, role owners, business app owners, whatnot. Right. So this is the model that we follow at Pathlock. Whenever someone reaches out to and say, what, join and move a lever, if it's for SAP or if it's beyond SAP application, this is the model that we follow. Now, let's go to the first step of the process, which is stop provisioning users with high risks and making sure you are evaluating the users that are existing in your platform, right? For that, we do have what you call as a model called campaigns. And within the Pathlock, there's a module where you can create a campaign. And when we create a campaign, it'll ask you for all the criteria. I'm going to show you the demo around it as well so that you can relate to what I'm trying to say. We have a campaign that you can create. This could be an internal auditor or a manager that can come in and say, I want to create a campaign that captures all the users and make sure you are running risk analysis against those users to see in-app risk, cross-app risk, and assign it to a reviewer. And once a reviewer gets all this information, he takes action on it. All action is captured in the reports for your internal auditors, external auditors, and leadership for visibility. So right from the creation of a campaign, which is a job, to specify the scope, specify the objective, and give it to a reviewer. And once the reviewer gets the information, he takes action, and then you provide what you call as the reports to your auditors. Now, to demonstrate this thing, this is where the get clean process initiates. Here is a internal auditor, or this is Kelly M. Kelly M. is logging into the Pathlock Cloud platform. Now, out of the box, Pathlock do provide a lot of risks, SOD content. The content is tied to different applications. You have SAP, you have an Oracle, we have PeopleSoft, you name it. We have a lot of content. We have a team of auditors sitting in there, certified auditors who are sitting in there and building this content. So it's verified by them. So in this case, I'm just demonstrating that here is a risk rule set for SAP ERP. Now, once you have uploaded the content, you can go into the campaigns. Campaign is where you create a job. Here is where, as you could see on the right-hand side, you can create a new campaign. And when you create a campaign, it'll ask you the select population. If you have 5,000 users or 50,000 users, it's important to make sure you segregate those users. So here's a select population can help you with slicing and dicing the data. And you have defined the elements for review. Yes, you have these users, but what are you reviewing for? You are reviewing for critical SOD risk, or you are reviewing for users with certain activity. Then you have the systems in scope. The systems in scope is because we go beyond SAP. In this case, it's just SAP. We'll click on SAP. If it goes beyond SAP, we'll select that. And you have customized process text. And a lot of times what happens is that when you give it to a reviewer, it's important for them to understand what they have to review because they're lost, because they have a day job to keep up, and then here's an internal auditor knocking their door or saying that you have to do this review for compliance purpose. That's not their focus. So it's important for us to remind them what they need to do. And then you have the the schedule that you can put in. So this is just showing you a highlight of, you can create a new UAR campaign or new SOD campaign. You have the population that I just showed you. And then once you select all the criteria, then you can define the campaign and process it. Now, this is where the reviewer gets a message. Okay, the reviewer is the one who's like a business audience who's getting this information. They can look at the information that's been provided to them. They have an inbox item that is sitting. They can click on the inbox. They have my waiting reviews. And in here, I can clearly see I have an SOD risk campaign that has been created. Obviously, this is part of the get clean process. Now, once I click on the details, it will show you me all the information that I need to review and why I'm reviewing this information, the instructions around it, and all that. Now, I can take action. And once I take an action, every action is recorded in a report, right? So here is Tom Davis did approve something and denied some permission that have been provided. Now, the idea is that in the get clean process, we will use the content that is provided by Pathlock to review the risks or sensitive, SOD risks or sensitive access risks, and make sure there are no conflicts. There's no sensitive access that has been provided to certain users. If there is, it's properly evaluated and approved by the consent parties. That's where the get clean process is and how it's initiated. Now, the next thing is where the join and mover lever process comes through. This is the lifecycle management that we just talked about, right? So now that we have cleaned existing roles, right, and now you're providing new users with the new permissions, right? With Pathlock, one of the advantages that we have a unified platform. When we say unified platform, we can go for SAP, provisioning for SAP. We can also do provisioning for Ariba or any other application beyond SAP as well. We do have workflows. A lot of times it's very, very, it's like it's a center of our universe, because without workflows, nothing would work, because at the end of the day, yes, you can request for permission, but where should this permission really go? This is where the workflow would decide. Yes, it needs to go to that person, but how many layers of workflow is required? Is it one layer of workflow or two layers of workflows that, or two layers of approvals that is required? So this is where the workflows are very critical. We do have out-of-the-box risk process. We are very proud to say that, because it is designed by our internal auditors, and it's purely curated by them. These are the certified auditors who have industry experience, decades of industry experience. Now, we had also talked about what if analysis. What if analysis is equally important to make sure, yes, someone is requesting this permission, but what does this permission really mean? You can do risk analysis across the board. You can do automated provisioning, deprovisioning as well, so that, because if we are integrated into a lot of out-of-the-box apps, that means we can automatically provision and deprovision users into those apps as well. And obviously, we can provide reports. Every action that is been taken within the platform is captured, and the events are reported in the dashboard. Now, this is a generic process. It starts with a request. The request can come from your HR system. For join and mover, the request can come from your HR triggers, a third-party ticketing systems, or we do have a self-service portal. You can come in and request a permission in the self-service request as well. The analysis happens. Obviously, the analysis happens because you have the SOD content behind it. You can do what if analysis. That means, what, I want to add this role and that role. What does that mean? Because the underlying, there is a risk content behind it. The risk content will use this permission and do the permutations and combination and tell you the analysis behind of, if you provide this risk, what does that mean to the business? And we're using the workflows. The reviewer will get the email, and he can look at the inbox item and he can review and take action on it. And this is where the decision comes into play. And once the decision is being taken, we can go back to the app and take the necessary action. Everything is reported in our dashboard. This is the cycle of how we can do join and mover process with compliance, enforcing compliance throughout the process. Now, to demonstrate that, here is Kelly M. What Kelly M does is that she goes into the platform, she goes into the portal. Now, once she goes to the portal, because I cannot show you the the workflow initiating from the HR system or the ticketing system. I'm showing you what is convenient for me here, which is the portal. Pathlock do provide you a portal, and you can customize this portal to your own business needs. You can come in here and say, you know what, I want to um, provide additional access, and you click on the additional access, as you could see. And once you click on the additional access, it'll provide you the uh, what application you wanted to provide additional access for. You can and then you can put in the name in there, the user's name, and then it will show you the user details, the current user details, and the user's current permissions as well. Obviously, we are integrated into all these apps to um, to pull all this information, so I know exactly what permissions this particular user has. Which is in this case, it's SAP underscore Anand Thomas. And Thomas has the AR cash payment, delivering processing, blah blah blah. He has all these permissions that have been assigned to him. Now, this is great, but you know what? I, as a manager, I think Anand Thomas is doing great job, and he needs more permissions to do more job, more things to be done, right? So I add some more roles. As you could see, there are a couple of things here at the bottom. You can have copy from a user. That means you can create a template user, and you can use a template user to provide permissions for Anand Thomas. That means if your template user has 10 things and you think those permissions need to be added, you can always copy from that user. You can have role advisor. Role advisor is something that will say, you know what, you can do permutation, combination, saying that I need permission from that user doing this task, and you can role advisor can kind of drive you to the exact role that is pertaining to your requirement. You can run risk analysis. This is very important. This is where we are trying to enforce the stringent compliance mandates, right? So here you can run the risk analysis, the mandatory step where you can run a risk analysis. And once you run a risk analysis, it will show you if there are new risks that are being introduced, if there are old risks already existing with this particular user and permission. It will always show you that. But as a manager or who's requesting, or as a request as an end user who's requesting your own permissions, you might care about it, you might not care about it. It all depends. But this is the first step of the process. So you can do whatever you want. End of the day, you can see all these risks and say, you know what, I don't care. I still want these roles to be granted. And you can submit the request. Additional access is requested for Anand Thomas. And submit the request. Obviously, every request is tied to an ID within the Pathlock Cloud platform. It is 9597 is the request ID. And once the request has been requested, this is where the workflows come into picture. As I said, our center of universe is workflows. And obviously here we have workflows, and within the workflows, as you could see, we have direct manager, we have auth admins, you have risk auditors. All these people can, all these people needs to approve this permission in order for us to provision that permission into the SAP instance. So, and as you could see, there is an approval group. If it's a direct manager, you can say, you know what, we can automatically pull the direct manager into the platform. You don't need to manually go and plug it in. If you want to plug it in, you can always plug it in. You have auth admins, you have risk auditors. Again, this is the template, standard template that I have. But guess what? If you come back and say, you know what, I want to add more flows, you can go to this next step link, or you can see the exact flow. If your auditors are wondering, how did this guy got this permission? You can always say, you know what, for additional access, show them the flow and download the flow and then provide them the screenshot of it, right? And if you think, you know what, this flow that is being given by Pathlock is not great, you can go here, click on the next steps, and then in the next steps, you can always go through the permission set. Now, once the requests have been submitted, it will go to the reviewer. Obviously, in this case, Tom Davis is my reviewer. And the reviewer logins into the platform again, the same thing, right? He gets an email, clicks on the link, it gets to your login page. Once you log in, it gets you the inbox. That's as straightforward as it can get. Now, he can go to additional access, and in additional access, obviously there are multiple tabs here, additional access is what we have provided, and as you could see, the request is already highlighting that it's a critical risk request. If this user is, it doesn't have the time to review all the information, you can always approve it and click on all the things and say approve or decline, whatever he wants to do. But if someone who is technical enough or who is diligent enough, who wants to go inside the platform and take a look, he can always take a look as well. In this case, he can click on one of the requests. In this case, I have clicked on the request called 8778. It'll tell me what roles have been requested, who requested it, all the information around it, and also the user who needs this additional access. And we are also trying to highlight the risks that have been identified for that user with these new permissions as well. Now, if you approve it, doesn't mean that it's been done deal. But guess what? If you approve it, that means it will go to the next step, and next approver needs to approve it in order for it to go to the automated provisioning by Pathlock. Now, that's how in every step of the way we are trying to make sure stringent um, risk evaluation is done, right? First, we got get clean. Get clean is where we ran existing permissions of the user base that you have against the rule set that we have. We identified the risk. We also reported the risks to consent parties so that they can either approve it or deny it, so that the permission can stay around, or they can deprovision the user, right? Deprovision of user permissions. That's where the stay get clean process came in. Now what you just saw was stay clean, right? Stay clean is where whenever you're giving new permissions, every step of the way you have evaluation. When the user Kelly McDonald requested access for a certain user, it already said, this user has all this permission, all these risks that you're introducing. Kelly M ignored all the warnings. She went through the process. She said, I don't care. I still want to get this guy this permission. But guess what? You have workflows, and the workflows also have a multiple set of users who are evaluating this particular permissions, and then the users can also either approve or deny it. Once it's all approved, that's when the permission is granted. Obviously, if you're an executive who is not in any of this, not in the picture for any of these steps, but who really want to get a big picture, we do have a lot of dashboards that will give you, top 10 risks, top 10 violation counts. We have by department, whatnot. We have a lot of permutation and combination of a lot of things that, a lot of reports that we can provide for end users. Now, a lot of times people want to understand how this architecture really works. I just want to make sure I highlight this, that we can integrate to any ticketing system, any HR system today. The identity sources, we can integrate to any identity source. I gave you a glimpse of a few here. And we can do provisioning into a lot of different apps. If you have apps that go beyond SAP, please do reach out to me. I can tell you what apps are supported, what apps are not supported. But if we don't support it, we do have a team dedicated to build the connector to these apps. Obviously, that's something that we can help you with as well. Now, the triggers can happen from the HR system or the ticketing system or the portal. And either of these, we will make sure we go through the entire process that we just saw. The request is submitted. It goes through the evaluation from different parties involved in the workflows. And once everything is approved and all the information is captured, that's when the provisioning will happen. This is how an end-to-end architecture looks like. Last but not the least, basically what we are coming down to is that we do have a platform that can help you empower and make sure you have compliant provisioning process for join and mover lever. and we can support SAP, and we can support application beyond SAP as well. And the way we would do it is, to wrap up, we do have workflows, we have segregation of duties content, we have sensitive access to risks. These are out of the box, built by certified auditors. We have seamless integration into business applications. As I said, if you have applications, in this case it is SAP, we definitely support SAP. We have email alerts that we can send out. Obviously, when your reviewers needs to be informed about things, we do have email alerts. And if your executives want to be informed about any potential violations, we can inform them as well. We have jobs that can be scheduled. Obviously, if you want to do stay clean process is done. Once the stay clean process, so get clean, stay clean, then what is the path forward? Obviously, you have jobs that can continuously run against your system and keep evaluating users and make sure you have continuous monitoring on those users. This is how Pathlock can help, and it's a single pane of glass or unified view. Obviously, you have one application, you have 15 different applications. This is one pane of glass view. This is what Pathlock can offer. I hope this session was informative. If you have any questions, feel free to post it on the chat window. Stephanie, you have any question?
Thank you, Anand. That was a great presentation. Again, if you do have any questions, please type them now into the questions box. Our first question is, does Pathlock Cloud support applications beyond SAP?
Yeah. As I said in the presentation, right, we do support applications beyond SAP as well. The same process that we went through for SAP, the demonstration that you saw, we can do exactly for Oracle EBS, we can do it for Ariba, Zycles. There are a lot of applications that we support. Do reach out to us. We can provide you the information around it. And if you have homegrown application, a lot of customers on prospect knock our door and say, "Oh, we do have a homegrown application. Do you support it?" We do support homegrown applications as well. It's just that it's something that we have to work with you to understand what this homegrown application really means. I hope that answers your question. Any other questions?
Yes, there is one question that just popped in. How is role management handled? Is it similar to AC?
Yeah. So role management is handled very similar to access control, SAP access control. Now, we do have, if you are, depending on what kind of roles you are designing right now, we can always have the discussion offline about how we can help you with it. But it is very similar to access control.
Perfect. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions right now. Thank you so much for those questions. Again, if you do have any more questions, you can reach out to us at info@pathlock.com, and we would be happy to answer any of those questions, and we'll have someone reach out to you. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming, and we hope to see you at future webinar events.